Hooded Horse has done a pretty solid job building up their catalog of games, focusing on the more niche sides of gaming. Specifically, they have done well in the realm of strategy games, with Against the Storm, Old World, and Clanfolk garnering very positive reviews. I reviewed a number of their games, and I am back to review another one currently in early access. In summary, Manor Lords is a strategy game that involves city building as well as a bit of combat thrown in. I was given a free code by the publisher Hooded Horse and decided it would be a good game for the channel to check out. While I do appreciate the free code, it will not deter me from a fair and honest review. Sounds good? Let's begin. So when you start the game, you can pick your character who is going to be your ruler and customize your family crest. So you can walk around through your city at any time. I'll get more into this later, but there's only one model currently and none of the portraits that you can choose affects it. So I'm assuming this will be different and it will have an effect in due time. But I am getting a bit of ahead of myself for now. So once you finish with picking your character, creating your quest, and calling your clan, whatever it is, you can then choose your starting scenario. And I took the restoring the peace scenario first, so that means I will need to unite all the kingdoms under my land, all the pieces of land there. And there's quite a bit to play around with regarding the difficulty, although there only seems to be one map template at the moment. The game does randomize the quality and quantity of certain deposits to mix it up, but the layout seems to be the same every time. More maps and randomization in general would definitely help in the long term for replay value. And so now begins our version of the Reconquista, just without the whole Crusader aspect to it. And I'm assuming we are some kind of Christian because we can build a church with a church bell, but I am getting a bit of ahead of myself. So you start out with a decent amount of supplies and families to get you started. The first thing that you should build right away is a logging camp, and basically because this will help to increase your supply in lumber, which is essential for almost every building, especially houses, which you'll need to house the families in. Everyone starts out homeless here in their homeless tents, so the best thing you want to do is to quickly build up homes to not lower the approval and keep everyone happy. Food is also a vital resource as expected, so you'll want to either build a hunter's camp or a forager's camp next to the appropriate deposits. Hunters, it's best to put them next to wild animal deposits, and foragers will be next to berry fields. There's a nice little Chicago Bears reference or Steelers reference. I'm getting out of here. But farming is also an option, although the starting lands tend to have very poor fertility, and it really just takes a whole year to reap the benefits, as expected, as in real life. And I just haven't really found it worth it, honestly. I just wish there were more crops to choose from, like corn, lettuce, etc., to create food quicker. Because growing wheat, which is the main food that you can grow here, it just takes too long to process into bread, because first you'll need a windmill to get it to flour, then you'll need an oven to bake it, and then finally it can go to the market. So it's just to me, it's something that's too tedious, and I just wish there's other crops that are more readily available. Maybe even throw some lettuce there as well. Fuel is also another big concern, especially towards the winter months, and this can be generated by creating firewood using the woodcutter's camp, and it's different from the logging camp, but you'll easily figure that out. What I did to extend my fuel supply further was to unlock the charcoal kilns once I leveled up my village, and when I assigned a family to this village, it basically converted every firewood I had to 2 pieces of charcoal each, creating more fuel to use and lasting much longer. I'll get more into the upgrading village process a bit later. So one of the first things that you'll notice is that building anything takes quite a long time. A lot longer than I would like, honestly. And these buildings are handled by your unassigned families. So these are families that really aren't assigned to a particular job. They also just can't grab the wood themselves and must rely on oxen to help carry the resource. I'm not sure why this extra step was added, but it's something to keep note of. Even with far more developed towns and more oxen to spare though, I still found the building process to be quite slow. So you'll most likely be leaving the simulation at 16x speed so you can move as quickly as possible. Having a construction set at a higher priority seems to help out a bit. But I would just like to see which families are currently working on each building that's being built. And there's currently really no way to tell this. I'm assuming this could be an easy thing to implement, but we'll see as time moves on. So once I got the starting 5 families in their new homes, the village leveled up and I was now able to pick a new development. So as I mentioned prior, I picked the one to help create more fuel as I was afraid of what winter would bring. Winter is always coming after all, so there's your Game of Thrones reference for the day. This is also where you'll notice a lot of the game is missing, including various policies that can be enacted and later stages of the tech tree. Unfortunately, I don't have any roadmap currently of the game, so I am unsure on when the next updates are planned. I hope to see a roadmap of the game soon, and it should be something that I believe going forward is easily accessible in all early access games, or at least you can see constant updates to keep players informed on Steam or however you can get through it. And winter did arrive as expected, so each season plays a different role in what happens in the world around you. So for example, spring is the best time to harvest berries as they are currently growing and constantly replenishing themselves, while winter is the worst time to gather food in general due to depleted supplies across the board. So the best way, what you want to do is to prepare for winter by having at least 3 months of food and fuel. But I've always had more than enough. I always tried to get as big of a surplus as possible, so it wasn't much of an issue for me, but it is something that you should keep in mind. I would say the game does a pretty good job of giving tutorials at first, as the first steps needing to be done. However, there is still a lot that you'll need to consult in the help section, mainly about how to obtain certain resources. And honestly, the help section in general is a bit lacking, with some sections just lacking any sort of descriptions or having bare bones descriptions. Honestly, in a more fleshed out help section could go a long way for new players, especially ones that don't have a lot of experience in the city building genre. And since there are so many unique mechanics compared to other city builders, I think even experienced players will need something to reference back to, or at least understand some of the unique mechanics here. All right, so let's go back to the natural flow of things. So current homes start at level 1 when you first build them. And for us to reach the next village level after getting the charcoal update, and so we can build a manor to tax people, we're going to need several families to be in level 2 homes. And in order to raise them to level 2, we need to fulfill their needs, and that includes fuel, food, fuel, clothes, religion, and access to water. Along with having the supply available for the families, marketplaces will need to be built in order for the homes to receive these goods. And once the marketplace is built, stalls will automatically be built by assigned families to the respective resources. It works for the most part, and I see what the game is trying to go for here, although I was having a bit of an issue with them as my towns began to grow, and I'll get into this part a little bit later. So the reason we want to tax people is to build the treasury and purchase some mercenaries to help with bandits. And we will most likely need to rely on mercenaries early on, as it is just such a long process to have the correct amount of people to build proper regiments. And regiments can be created in the amount of 36 people, so 36 of that weapon would be required. And some regiments also require a shield, which is an additional resource that will be needed. Initially, I tried to rely on trading to obtain longbows and equip my people with them, but it took an incredibly long time and was costly to the regional wealth. I also never got into combat despite the enemy having every single territory around me. I don't know if it's just I either got lucky or didn't play long enough to see them commit a full-blown attack, but it is my experience. So speaking of trade, let's talk more about it. It's another important element to consider, and I would say it's pretty essential. So exporting goods will create regional wealth, which can be used to purchase various livestock and to purchase upgrades on certain houses. Percentage of regional wealth can also be taxed on, adding to your treasury once that ability is unlocked. I ended up focusing pretty heavily on trade so I can import the longbows and sell clay tiles, as well as surpluses I had for additional cash money. Boy, I felt I needed to say it at least once, so there you go. And speaking of taxes, I was finally able to upgrade my village enough to be able to build a manor. Outside of just putting the building down, there's quite a bit to customize here, as you can add additional buildings to give you various benefits. This is a cool little feature, although it's a bit rough around the edges right now. The add roads button just really adds fences for some reason, and there doesn't seem to be a way to remove the fences once you put them down. So this is very rough, and hopefully it gets improved pretty soon. So there's quite a bit I talked about in this city builder, and if you want to just be able to take it all in and relax a little bit, there is a way to walk down on foot and explore your town from your lord's perspective. For such a simple feature though, this is honestly like one of my favorite things to do. There's just a huge sense of accomplishment being able to see a well-developed town, viewing the various buildings and seeing the families at work. In a way, it's a bit relaxing and euphoric just taking a casual stroll as the lord of your town. This is just an early version at the moment, but I can see this getting expanded in a future update. The obvious one will be to actually customize your character. Another would be to speak to the villagers to at least hear their thoughts and to get some feedback on what you should address next, like some of the old Sierra games. Obviously, the old Sierra city builders like Caesars 3 and Pharaoh didn't have this feature, but they did have the feature where you can talk to your villagers and get some feedback of the town and their concerns. So something like that would be really cool. And third, and probably the most ambitious, would be to give the ability to join your troops in combat and take direct control of your lord. That would honestly give some huge Banner Lord vibes if able to be pulled off, but that's more of a wish list thing than anything else. I doubt that's even being considered at the moment. So as my village began to grow, I started getting messages stating that my homes were losing approval due to lack of access to their needs, mainly for food and fuel. And it honestly really confused me since the markets were still active and I had plenty of supplies. I also started a second playthrough to see if it was just my market layout, and I still ran across this issue. I'm just not sure what I need to do here and what causes this. This may be an AI issue or something I did wrong, but it's hard to really get adequate feedback on why this is the issue. It's strange how I was able to satisfy one family's needs easily and now no longer able to, despite still maintaining a surplus. No idea. So for an early access title, I'm actually pretty impressed by the polish so far. I surprisingly did not run into any game-breaking issues, nor did I have any crashes. There are, however, some visual glitches where the information isn't being displayed correctly, and it just looks like a bunch of strings for some code, but nothing that'll ruin the experience. So overall, I do like the foundations of this game, and the potential for what the future brings is very, very high. However, I do feel like we are far from a completed product. While there is a lot of fun to be had building your town from a bunch of homeless families to a prosperous one with trade and a very sturdy economy, there are many features of the current and future that need to be addressed. This involves more policies, more things to research, and just better market AI. I swear that's some sort of glitch, or just something in the coding, because it's kind of an annoying thing I've experienced in every town I've made so far. The original price of this game is $40, although there is a sale going on currently to bring the game at $30. So for an early access title game at this stage, it's hard to recommend it personally for me at the $40 price point, although I can definitely see this game progress very nicely in the future. And as I mentioned prior, Hooded Horse has many city builders that started in early access that turned out to be very fun, especially the Excellent Against the Storm. That one is one of my favorites and I still play that regularly. So regardless though, I'll definitely keep my eye on this one and we'll look forward to what the future brings. So thank you everyone for watching as always, and this is Powerhouse signing off.